So I run over to Twitch real quickly to see when it pops up. We're running. Yay! Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of AGP Presents a Character. Well, he's a character, but also a creator. As always, I'm your host. My name is Amanda, and this is my podcast. And with me is somebody I met in 2012. We actually bonded over, he was talking about the Dark Knight Rises, and I went, oh, you mean the Bane movie that guest starred Batman? And we had an instant friendship right from that point. I want to welcome my friend Terry Huddleston to the show.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Yes, I am one of, well, two, me and Amanda, people that, that's my bio. You don't need to know anything about me other than I'm the one guy that didn't like Dark Knight Rises. And also, I'm gonna double down, the one guy that did not like the Joker movie either. I know, this guy's nuts, but it's just, when I explain it to people, they're like, oh man, I never thought of it that way, because it's a lot of emotional manipulation inside that film that has to be unpacked. And you're like, oh, I got tricked into liking a bad movie. So anyway, we'll get into that later.
Yeah. So what we're gonna do is Terry's here. Obviously, as you can see, we're promoting a lot of his artwork. Terry is an amazing artist. I have the best killer piece. Unfortunately, it had to go in my living room, and I can't get to it. You did the most magnificent thing of Tim Curry as Darkness from Legend.
Oh, thank you.
It is absolutely like, I died as soon as I saw it.
Let me see if I can do a screen share. I'll pull it up.
Yeah, all you do is share screen. Make sure that says yes to.
Yeah, I'm familiar. This isn't my first SteamYard rodeo, so.
This is SteamYard's weird though. You have to say yes to audio to share the screen, and it's like, but there's no audio. I'm just showing you a picture. That makes no sense whatsoever.
They're just being thorough, I guess. I don't know.
Oh my god.
Yeah, Darkness is one of those characters that that you know, as much as I tear down certain movies that are massively popular, I try to promote movies that are underrepresented. I just watched Legend not too long ago. That movie is punching way above its pay rate. Like basically, like it's not for kids, but we watched it as kids.
Oh, yeah.
And so I didn't realize how much sexual innuendo was in that movie. I know, duh, now, but an 8-year-old me didn't know what was going on. But,
yeah,
you know.
Dancing with the black dress scene takes on a whole new meaning as an adult.
It's her choosing between, you know, I mean, it's not the only fairy tale. A lot of fairy tales dealt with feminine sexuality in an overt way, and we don't know. Like Peter Pan, Wendy had to choose between that grown man or that little boy. Like, which one she gonna go with? And Hook's like, I can show you some things now. And they even pass that over and stuff like Aladdin has the same thing. It has, you know, you think about it now, you get uncomfortable, but it was in there, you know. And this was no different. Like, Darkness was pretty much the world's most evil incel, and he's like, hey, I need some loving. And you know, I want you to come down here with me. I'm sick of missing out.
Oh, when he's sitting there going, Father, what is this feeling with this woman? You're just like, yo, it's okay. It's all right. There it is. There it is. That is.
There you go.
Deliciously awesome.
Yeah. Darkness is he's an amazing character. Like, I mean, he steals the show.
Oh yeah.
So.
Where'd you get back here?
Oh, what happened? Did I leave?
You left and I brought you back. I have to say, let's face it. Anytime Jim Carrey takes over,
you said Jim Carrey. that changes everything.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is what happens when you work on 2 hours of sleep for like 2 weeks straight.
No, I think you just innovated something. I want to see Jim Carrey as the devil. Let me tell you something. Let's say you take some fire and brimstone and a little bit of evil, and you mix them all up. You know, yeah, no, that could be something. You just invented something there. The new dark comedy.
It'll be a whole new world. Well, I mean, you know he could do it. If you've ever seen Cable Guy, you know he could do dark.
Yeah. I've been watching that show, Kidding. I'm caught up on that. It's 2 seasons where he's playing like a mixture of a Sesame Street and a Fred Rogers character kind of combined. that's going through an existential life crisis, and that's like right up my alley. I'm like, whoa, puppets and existential dread. Let's roll. So
okay, so you like puppets. So does that mean that you saw the Dark Crystal prequel on Netflix?
So okay, the reason why I'm into stuff like that is it's a YouTube thing called "Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared," which kind of takes Sesame Street and just makes it completely like David Lynch, Twin Peaks. So the Dark Crystal reboot, I personally couldn't get into it. I wanted to, and I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not gonna debate. I just couldn't stay interested in it. Like it just felt like a kind of vanilla. Like okay, here's the ugly bad guys versus the not so ugly good guys, and it's like I kind of got where it was going.
Yeah, well, but they still had. I mean, they had to keep it the way that it was because the movie's the ending. So
yeah, I get it. Like I said, I'm not gonna knock it. It's just I'm 42 and I've come to an amazing realization that not everything is for me, and that movie wasn't for me. Some people go, oh, it sucked because I didn't like it. It's like, no, maybe it just wasn't for you. Like the new She-Ra. Yeah, like the new She-Ra. I think it's a great show. It isn't for me though. I'm not the demographic that they were aiming at. Like it didn't stick. Steven Universe, I love it. I watched every single episode. So if anybody wants to say anything,
No. I absolutely love and adore Steven Universe. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Mm-hmm. I've tried the new She-Ra. The only problem with is watching the new She-Ra, it's like, okay, you're the poor man Steven Universe is what it feels like to me.
Exactly. So
I can't get into it.
I was like, I'm just thinking about Steven Universe now.
Yeah. It's like, I can't follow this because it's like either I think of the original She-Ra or I think of Steven Universe is so it just doesn't work for me. For those that work for, great, especially if you didn't get to see Steven Universe because it seems to have a lot of the same lessons and morals in it.
Right.
No.
And I'm not going to tear it down. I think it's a show that should be championed. It's just not by me, just because it's just like I said, I could if I was like a defense attorney for it, I could like give you a convincing case why it's the best thing since sliced cheese. But like realistically, I don't, I wasn't entertained substantially enough to keep going. But it's a lot of shows like that for me.
All right.
I'll tell you what though, if you want a show that starts off terrible and looks terrible, if I explain it to you, you'd be like, that sounds terrible. Where it's a bunch of teenagers get sent down to Earth in an apocalyptic future, and it's on CW. You're like already like throwing up in your mouth. It's called The 100. That show should be god awful. And the last season, I think 6 is. But I watched that show to hate watch it. Like, oh God, look at these bad. And then by episode 4. I kind of was like a junkie in denial, where I was like I actually by the end of season 1, and I was crazy. I was like, man, I kind of want to know what happened. Bite my teeth. I'm like, even though the show sucks, I still want to know. And then I had to come out of the closet like, I think I'm a fan of The 100, and it just got better and better and better. And they fixed all the problems, and I've never even Game of Thrones kind of crapped its ending, where I felt like The 100 had true legit, like Amanda's gonna have to make a choice that pisses Terry off permanently. Not like a in the moment choice and then we'll be like buddies later. Like later when I see you in episode or season 4, I'm still gonna shank you for that thing you did in season 1. And I love stuff like that. Like because I hold grudges forever. So I would not be forgiving anybody that betrayed me on the scale they were doing betrayals on. So
in other words, that's Terry's feminine side, because we all know women will hold something over your head to the day you die.
I get it from my mama. I will take it. Yeah, I hate forever. Unless you have an unbroken chain of corrected behavior, then that's the ointment that soothes my grudge. But if you just continue to have the same unchanged behavior, no matter what it is, then the hate continues. I'm not a forgive and forget person.
Nope.
What can I say?
No. I totally get where you get from. I mean, it's like, all right, you got me this one time. I'll try to be friendly again. Oh, you did this to me and all these other people. Oh, I will bury you.
Yeah, you're done. And me, I'm a really, since I was an only child for 12 years, like I'm a really good isolator. Like I can isolate myself very well. Like, all the people I need is my wife and kids, everything, everybody else, so don't think you have any special connection to me if you're not my immediate family, because I have a sociopathic skill set like an RPG game to be able to just not associate with people that I don't want to associate with. So I look at it as a gift, but some people look at it as a crazy flaw. I don't know.
Speaking of, oh man, your wife, she has her and my sister. Just watching those two at Gym City is hilarious. They just call her auntie, right?
Yeah, she might as well. Yeah, I've always said she's the world's youngest auntie, because even when she was like younger, we've been married for over 20 years now. She was always kind of, hey, shit. I'm like, babe, you're talking to people that are like 10 years older than you, and you're treating them like you're their mother or something.
She don't care. It's just so, like, she'll walk through the door, and my sister Kathy and my buddy DJ will just go, auntie, and it's like, okay, well, that's where they'll be for the rest of the weekend. Bye.
She's got it. She's got the motherly, nurturing glow. I definitely soak up most of it. That's why I'm still here right now, looking like I'm looking, just because I don't know where I'd be without her. Just tear out the eye. But it's true though. I'm one of those few husbands that I'm not one of those the old ball and chain. I'm like, please don't leave me, please. No. I don't want to be single again.
Ever again.
Shout out to y'all single people, man. I know y'all think y'all got it good, but
no,
it's some RPG perks you get from being married for a long time, where you get like a buff in life, where it's like plus 10 in trust factor. When people hear that you're married, they automatically go, like, as long as you've been married, they go, oh, he's that much more trustworthy. And I can be a scumbag, but it's true. It's like a weird, like, I never even thought of it when I was in my, let's say, 20s. But now I'm like, man, I love the perk of being married, because people automatically, like, more doors open up to you, like a skill chain in a video game. It's like, oh, I can make this move now. Whereas, like, Amanda, you're single. What's wrong with you? Why aren't you one of us? That's how society treats you. You know it's true.
Right. The answer is because I don't leave the sanctuary of my house, and the only people I associate with are the people that are at comic shows. So.
I'm joking. Look, not everybody's cut out for marriage, right? I don't think it's 100% compatible thing. And, you're opening up a couple of different Pandora's boxes with each relationship you get into. And it's tough. And I feel like I got a winning lottery ticket more than anything. Because think about it. Like, me and my wife were pretty much super young when we got married. So, like, imagine how dumb you were back then. It's like, to make a good choice when you're that young and dumb is a miracle in and of itself. Like, whoa, I chose the right person to spend my life with. Yes, So in
other words, what you're saying is God smiled down on you and went, you get this one. There you go.
One. And that's all I want. I tell you all the time.
Here's your one.
I just want my one brown woman. I say it just like that. She's mine. Because everybody, man, like, people see Lita, like, let me get a hug. Let me get I'm going to steal your wife. Like, you got a wife. Go to your wife. Just let me have my one awesome wife.
Well, I don't have a wife, so can I have your wife?
See, you're another one. I gotta put you on my enemies list. I gotta mark it down. Like, all right, people to take out at Comic-Con. Amanda with 3 A's. All right, there we go.
Yeah, we'll see how far you get in Gym City taking me out.
No, I'm joking. As the old Mohican saying goes, don't shit where you eat. So you can't, kill people that actually help you out in life. Speaking of which, what have you been up to now that I'm sure all your fans know, but I don't know. What have you been doing since the apocalypse happened?
Hiding. I did do a Gym City Comic-Con online convention. I did it for the full weekend. I had a new creator come on every hour. So that was kind of cool. I threw it together in less than 24 hours, which was quite epic of me. Other than that, I'm bumping up the podcasting. I quit my 9-to-5 job, so this is all that I do: the podcasting and the gaming on Twitch.
What was your 9-to-5?
Fast food restaurant.
Yeah, you know what? No matter what it was, I would say congratulations. That's the first step to being independent. I tell people all the time, like the minute I hear people complain about their job, I'm like, quit that job today. Like, quit being unhappy instantly. Like, you don't have to wait for some things to line up. Like, you can be happy today. And human beings we're not capable of like, no, there's got to be some kind of trick to it. Like, no, it isn't. Like, what about money? Like, you can figure out a way to make money.
Yeah,
like,
you can always go work part-time to pay the bills. Or
you don't even have to do that. You know how to cook it all? Like yes. Anything. Like, what do you cook well? What's the best thing you cook?
Steak, seafood.
How much people pay for steaks?
I have no idea.
At a fancy restaurant.
Yeah, they'll pay $30-40.
They'll pay $30-40 for a steak. Guess what? Amanda's selling steaks for $20. and they're delicious. Right?
But Amanda only cooks them medium well. So if you don't like them any other way, you got to get out.
Doesn't matter. That's like the only way you should be eating a steak anyway, medium or medium well. Like if you're eating a well steak, that's disgusting. Or you know what I mean? Like you're eating a piece of rawhide. But this is what I'm saying. Like we all have intrinsic creative skills that we don't even know, that we put, decades of time and skill into. And the guy that's like, man, I've been dying for a good steak, but we can't go out. How can I get a good steak delivered to my house? For this one, what else can you cook? Well, you can get sides for this. Next thing you know, you're selling food just overnight. And I know this is hypothetical, but this is how easy it is. And if you sell 10 $30 plates, you've made $300. Right? Which is more than some people make in a week. More than some people make in 2 weeks. And you're like, wait a minute, I did that right in my kitchen. Right. And this is the thing I've been preaching to people even before COVID-19 is that you have to start a business. Even if you got a job, like start edging your way out like you did, where you can like, how can I monetize what I like to do? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I mean, you're the prime example of that as well, So,
right. And it does help that I branched out doing other things. So like I make coasters.
See, there you go.
Thromies. I'm making dice bags, dog scars, masks.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Yep. And that's you're exactly what America needs to be doing en masse. Like, because we all, like, if you've worked a job all your life, but you're like, I'm not creative, you can figure it out. Yeah. Like, most of these skill sets are a couple of tutorials away, and you can be a really crappy version of something that you'll be great at later. But you got time to be crappy at something right now, and so there's no excuse not to get free skill allotment. Let's do a video game analogy again, where you recalibrate all your EXP points into different skill sets. That's what you need to be doing right now. Like your old skill sets don't work no more.
So what I ended up doing, so I saw what was happening back in December, and I saw this coming. Mm-hmm. I knew in January I was more than likely not going to be able to handle working with the public during this.
Yeah, you knew more than most of us. Most of us were like, la-di-da-di-da.
My anxiety and I actually do have an immune deficiency. I was born with mono, so I don't, flu puts me in the hospital, let alone what can COVID do. Right. And at the time, the job that I was working at was like, no, you can't take off. It's not that bad. It's just a hoax. And my anxiety just went, and I flipped out, and I quit.
Yep. Now look at you now. And it's once again, congratulations. You made an adult choice.
I made an adult choice.
You chose yourself.
And I was also smart about it. In case I can't get everything off the ground, I gave myself a time frame to where I made sure that my bills can be paid for a certain amount of time. And then if I can't get to where I need to be, then I might have to go back and work and get that money back up and running again until something happens. But I'm giving myself a time frame, and things have been happening. So I'm hoping by the time
they will. The one thing I will say is I'm to the point now, because I quit my job like 10 years ago, that I don't even consider going back to work as an option. Just because of once you level up, once again, video game analogy, to a point where you're making so much money per whatever, it's not consistent. Like you're not going to make it weekly, but within a month you'll still make more than you make at a job. Like to me, the thought of going to work for 40 hours and bringing home like $400 or something like drives me nuts. Like, dude, I can make like $3,000 with that kind of time to myself across different projects. So it's just, it becomes less enough of an option. So you get more and more creative and innovative with what you do with your time so you can make money. Like I said, you know, you're selling, you like, you know what, maybe I should start selling dinners to people, you know, because who the hell eats good home cooked meals? Not a lot of people. You know, you assume they do, but it's actually not true. There's an old timey overlap we all have different skill sets that we should rely on each other for. Art being one of them. Like, hey, you know what? I can't make peach cobbler. I heard you make a mean one, and like I'll pay you $40 for it. And you know, like, hey, you give me this, I'll give you that. It's a lot of ways to basically stay afloat and pretty much eke a way through life. Now, one thing I noticed with Comic-Con is, with it being over the way it is, it's like Comic-Con itself is the most expensive part of my business. Like, you know, I make the joke that it's like having a mistress that's really expensive and she likes nice things, and I got to spend a lot of time with her and, you know, and treat her real nice. But now that it's over, I'm like, man, I feel kind of free a little bit. Like I can, you know, commit to doing more artwork, you know. So when I do a Comic-Con, it's better. So I'm probably going to do a lot less shows when Comic-Con start back up again.
But you're still doing mine.
I'm still doing yours. Actually, the thing is, it's just unless something changes, a lot of Comic-Cons, even before C19, were pricing themselves into a point to where if you could afford to do it, you could afford not to do it. Like, like if you're gonna cough up $3-4 grand, it's like, I can probably just keep the $4 grand in my pocket, and yeah, you're gonna lose out on money. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, you get to gain time. It's like, how much is your time worth?
Right.
You know,
especially for those that are going and okay, so they got their table costs, and they have the traveling, then you have, of course, eating the entire weekend, and you have the hotel room, and it's like, think about the amount of money you just spent on that. Then think about the sales that you do on a weekly basis at home. Was it worth going to the show?
Well, I call it cheap money. You know, staying at home, the money's cheaper. Like let's say I spend, you know, $2 or $3 grand, but I pull in, you know, let's say like $8 grand. That sounds good, but here's where the Ponzi scheme comes into it. It's an interpersonal Ponzi scheme. So you're the victim and the victimizer at the same time, but all your money goes to future Comic-Cons. And you can't pay for future Comic-Cons unless you're doing another Comic-Con. And so you as an individual, the victim part of you, never get to have stockpiles of cash because it's always in the future. And then the victimizer part of you is like, hey, I'm going to need you to cough up, you know, 8 to 10 grand within a month to pay for all these shows coming up throughout the rest of the year. And so it ends up becoming a self-perpetuating cycle of you have to do Comic-Cons to do more Comic-Cons.
Which is funny because the same thing for those of us who run comic book conventions. The money all the money that we're making for that literally goes into the next show. You're not making money as a comic convention.
You're on the same hook. And that's why people ask me, you should start your own Comic-Con. I'm like, no. First of all, like when you have a bad show as a creative, it stings, but it's not like, you know, your whole life's ruined. It's just a bad show. But you have a bad show as a promoter, like oh my God.
It can sink you.
You probably
can really sink you.
Yeah, you're like, man, I think I'm just going to jump because, you know, I just lost $250,000 or $1 million or more, you know, on this, that, and the other. But I think we are going to come back smarter and more frugal, I think, in the future. But what I was trying to get to is I hope Comic-Cons in general, not you guys, because I mean, you know, I think I can't get any cheaper than what I pay for your show. But you know, most shows need to depress their prices a little bit to make it more realistic, because now we don't have the Ponzi scheme back in money. It's like, really, like, what if I asked you, like, hey, you got $3,300 right now to do my show? You're like, dude, if I had $3,300 to do your show, I could not do your show. I could live for a month and a half off of that money. Like, why would I give it? You know what I mean? It's like you're asking me to sacrifice right now money for the future, as opposed to when Comic Cons are going, like, you know, the money's going out, but you still have money left over to do basic stuff with. So.
And by the way, people, don't get us wrong, because I mean, obviously, I work for 4 comic book conventions. Terry goes to a lot of the times. You do get to meet some really great people, and for a lot of people, it's really one of the great voices that they had. Even though with the situation that we've experienced this year, people are coming up with new inventive ways. But then there's the thing of I want to go see my friends, and a lot of people will spend the money so they can see their friends.
I think the winners of Comic-Con are always the fans. The fans win. You know, what they're hearing right now is just how the sausage gets made behind the scenes stuff. You know, but they got to buy a ticket, you know, and obviously they pay for the autographs and all that stuff. But you can kind of choose what level you want to be invested in. Whereas, you know, with creatives, we also have that same choice whether you want to go Artist Alley or go Bender. But you know, because I'm kind of extra, you know, I always got to go exhibitor booth and go big, you know, sky high. But you know, it also feeds back into the fans. Like, to me, I feel a responsibility to give fans a show. Like, if they're paying to get into Comic-Con, I want them to see a spectacle that they talk about when they go home. Like, man, did you see that big wall?
That's why we put you right there. Just look, right there. Just
boom,
stop, boom, there. You have the wall. You're not.
You know, and I want to put that out there. I was the first one to do the wall in the way I was doing it, and I learned from 2 people. One was styling T-shirts, Tower of T-shirts, and the other one was Tommy. Why am I blanking on Tommy's last name? Castillo. Jesus, I'm like, I know Tommy Castillo, who passed away. Yeah, I know. You're her wife. Yes, that's what wives are for. They're like the brain that stores on. But he always had like a larger setup than everybody else, and I was like, man, I want some of that magic. So, you know, many years ago, I was the only artist in Artist Alley that had a big wall. So imagine all these 8-foot banners and then this big giant wall, and you know, it gave me an unfair advantage for quite some time, and then everybody started doing it. But,
right.
You know, and that's how it goes. So it's just like the first guy with the skyscraper. He's got a 6-story building. He thinks he's all badass, and then the guy builds like oh wait, you know, and so the race begins. So, you know.
Now, I do want to point something out, because a lot of people, you know, like I said, I have an old background of yours, old old stuff. So they see like the original headshots of a lot of the characters, but you have started taking well-known characters and updating them.
Exactly. Yes. I'm about to open up my website and just share the page. I've evolved over the years, but my aesthetic has always been the same over the past 10 years. You know, I just kind of wanted to perfect it a little bit more. And so I don't know. Are we on this? Okay, we are on the screen. Okay. So basically I wanted to do something that was more akin to the headshots, but like kind of like the headshots plus. So, you know, you get a little bit more detail going on in there, and you know, a lot of stuff's going on. And then in person, my prints are textured. So if you ever touch like the hair feels like hair, and the bat feels like a bat, and the snozberries taste like snozberries. So, you know, it was just kind of the next obvious step of where to go. Actually, I'm going to show you a sneak peek of something I didn't post yet, but I got it done. So
nice.
I got that one, and I got that one coming out.
Ooh.
For the animated fans, and also got this one. But here's the one I'm really proud of, because you know I love doing my alternative versions of a character.
Yes.
The Billy D. Williams Two-Face. You know, a lot of people didn't realize that. You know.
Oh yeah.
That people forgot that he was Harvey Dent in the '89 Batman. So
I didn't.
So it's just one of those things. But yeah, so you know, these are the updates of what I'm doing on the headshots, and my wife actually pushed me to do this series, just because it had gotten to a certain point in time where we just had to update, and sales were starting to kind of everybody kind of got what they wanted to get. And my business model at the time, that's just one thing I love about being an independent, I call it micro business owner, because we're definitely not small business owners. I thought we were small business until I saw what small businesses make. I was like, oh, I'm not a small business. But she kind of told me, she gave me like an insight from a feminine perspective that I was missing. And it's not, a lot of times when people have these myopic mindsets, it's not all the time. It's not that we're willfully going, no, I refuse to see the feminine perspective. We don't even know that we don't have it. Like, we don't even know. But that being said, it did take her a while to like get past my knuckleheadism, because she told me many, many times over many, many years, like, hey, you need to do this. And I'm like, yeah, I got it. Like, you go do your thing. I'm going to do my art. I was a jackass. And one time I got so mad at her because I wanted her to just quit bringing it up, that I did it out of spite. Like, I'm going to do it and it's going to fail, and then she's never going to bring this up again. And it didn't fail. It literally like took off like a rocket. And I've been eating crow ever since. Like, babe, you were right. Like, not only did it take off, it like changed our lives. Like, oh wow. Like,
nice.
And so I got to give her 100% of the credit. Like, I can't go, well, I have this innovative idea to do a thing, and it's a lot of people do that. Like, nah, I resisted it. I resisted change, and she basically got me to do something that benefited everybody. Matter of fact, this was the one that I did because we wanted to start doing stuff that catered more to African American women art, which was sorely lacking. So I did the Nubia Wonder Woman piece, and it like flew out of my hands. Like, I couldn't keep it in stock. So
right. And I'm gonna be honest, I absolutely love it. One of the reasons why is because it just gives people, one of the things that a lot of people go, I don't see myself in anything. This allows people of all different races and cultures to see something of themselves within your artwork.
Exactly. And that was a major, it's the same thing with my lack of a feminine perspective. It's the same thing happens with people. They don't really think about the minority perspective. So when you come into Comic-Con, it's completely beige. Even the Japanese stuff is beige, so it's just kind of reinforces the status quo. And that's what kind of gave me a delineation in my brand, is I have probably the most diverse character set that you're going to find. And on top of that, like, it's not like a one-to-one where black people just buy it because it's black. I actually sell it to everybody. Like, people are like, ooh, I'm a teacher. I want this in my classroom, and I want to put this up in my office. And, and so I'm so happy that so many different people groups are satisfied with the diversity. And that's how I usually, especially in light of what's going on today, that's usually how I preach diversity, is don't try to sell it like, Amanda, I need you to be nice to me because I'm black. Like, Amanda, you're missing out on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Because you're close. If you were close, but I'm not saying you are. But that's how I'm like, hey, you're missing out on not basically promoting equality, not me. Like, like, you're missing out.
Well, one of the coolest pieces that you did was the Sailor Moon.
Oh yeah, thank you. Let me pull that one up.
Oh my gosh!
I actually did an add-on to that. I did it was a cosplay variant where she was Storm in Sailor Moon. So I kind of combined those two.
Saw that, but I mean, one is
and then there's this one here.
She's absolutely fantastic, but the Storm Sailor Moon one, where you kind of do her, like, this one's cool, but I like this one better because she's thicker.
I knew you were gonna say that. I was like, cause she did. That's why. Yeah, I got no problem.
She's more realistic. Yeah, you have a better chance of seeing her than the other one in anywhere on today.
So with my original characters, the Affinity series, I pride myself on having like realistic body types in those as well. This is one of my later ones. that you could see where, I got, got woman belly. Every woman's got a belly. Every guy's got a belly, but they do these size 0 waist that like go in and possibly and come back out. And I'm like, that's not what we look like, guys. Like, even if you look at like the hottest non-surgical fashion model next to a skinny guy, the body shape isn't that different. Like, it's like, or a thick guy next to a thick girl. Like, we go like crazy trying to accentuate the differences between male and female when it's really exaggerated to a point to where we kind of worship cartoon bodies over realistic bodies now.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see the women that get the nip tuck, as I like to call it, and it's like part of me is like, ooh la la, but then part of me is like, man, that's kind of funny looking at the same time. Like, it's
right.
It's like cool. It's cool to look at, but it's also like it's weird at the same time. Like,
right, exactly. It to me, it's one of those things where it's just like, I would rather buy something that looks more realistic than something that doesn't. And again, it goes back to, I want to see me.
Right.
I want to see something that reflects me, my personality, my quirkiness, maybe my body type, who I am. And I think it's absolutely important what you're doing, because people can go, I see me here. I see me. I see my culture. I see my race. I see my religion. I see my body type. I see me represented within your artwork.
Yep, and it's one of those things. Like, I get it. Some people don't want to feel like they're falsely promoting an agenda just to drum up sales, but this is something that has been close to my heart for a long time. Only because, so I became a de facto feminist only because I was raised by all aunts, and they were like, my oldest aunt is super. She's like a big woman. She's like, for a woman, she's like tall, and since she wears high heels, makes her even taller. So kid me. So this is obviously why I gravitated to Steven Universe. I was like, that's me. I'm Steven Universe, and this is all my aunties raising me, and they range from saints to flat out, goons. Like, you know what I mean? So I never got this view of weak women and women can't do this. Like, I've seen it with my own eyes. Women do all the stuff that men kind of claim to be a masculine trait. Like, I don't think so. Unless I got man for aunties. Like, they shot people and cut them and loved them and picked them up in bodies. Like, they did all kind of crazy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Growing up. And, I'm not saying it was all good. I'm not condoning it, but it definitely didn't give me like, women are weak. Like, to this day, I won't fight a woman. Like, look, of course I'll pick a skinny girl to fight, but I want like 90% of women. I'm not going to run up on a woman thinking, I could take her because she's a woman and I'm a strong man. Like, y'all be doing Zumba and all kind of shit that'll get you messed up. So don't be thinking.
Not only that, but if you're my age, I'm actually a year younger than you are. And so back in our day growing up, not only do you not just approach a woman, you need to look to see what's in her hand, because back in those days, anything a woman has in her hand is the weapon.
Is the weapon, including their hands, because man, they had their nails did. You was really getting. I seen it happen growing up. In high school, I saw more girl fights than anything, man, and that just reinforced, like, oh man, they're vicious. Like, guys, we're kind of like video game. Like, we want to, but women, it's like lawless, man. Like, anything like possible, and I'm like, holy, I don't want none of that.
I think we get along so much is because you and I have a lot of similar background. We grew up around the same time, and we have the type of families that are like, no, look, no one is excluded because of anything. Anybody can do anything. Get over it.
It's the benefit. So I've been finding myself, just like I found myself a de facto feminist, without having to be told from an outside source. I also find myself a de facto defender of the Midwest, because every time I go somewhere and I tell people where I'm from, they literally throw up in their mouth, like, Indiana, ugh. And I'm like, first of all, it ain't that bad. Like, I know you have this view of Joe Dirt and nothing but rednecks walking around with NASCAR, but
that's Kentucky, not Indiana. No.
Yeah, well, it's true, but still, but even I defend Kentucky. Like, yeah, everybody's got their cliche things, but it's almost like saying California is full of latte sipping yuppies, which it is. But listen, like,
people put spinach on their pizza.
But exactly. But it's like there's a lot of benefits to the middle of the country. We are slower, like mentally and physically. We take things slower. We don't make a lot of rash decisions because we know stuff's gonna change. Like, it's summer now, mother. Almost cuss, but it's gonna be winter, and that thing you thought was cool when it was hot, it's gonna be crap when it's cold. And so that it gets into your psychology to know. Just matter of fact, you already proved me right. You were like, "Hey, back in December, I saw the weather. I put my, you know what? The weather's changing. I'm gonna squirrel up for the winter, and basically that's coming. In a Game of Thrones style, and that's a Midwestern trait. It's a Midwestern mindset of knowing like things are changing. I better prepare for a new season, which people that live in places that don't have seasonal change don't really have that mindset. Right. It's always sunny all the time.
Of course, then you have places like here in Ohio. Oh, look, it's the dead of winter and it's 60, 70 degrees. Oh, look, summer's coming. 32 degrees.
Yeah, no, there you go. Yeah. Well, that's Midwest for you. It could be anything. Anytime. And plus it's cheap to live in the Midwest. I've been telling all my California and East Coast friends, like, you guys are overpaying way too much just so you can have a Target and a Walmart near you. You can move to the Midwest and have that for a fraction of the cost.
Yeah, it's expensive to live there. Down south, like in Florida, it's expensive to live there. So I lived in Florida for 15 years.
Oh, yeah, Florida is super expensive. East Coast and California, I got friends all over. I'm like, I hear their rent, and I'm like, good God. Like, you could buy like a car every month for that kind of money.
No kidding. Now we know why so many cardboard boxes are on the side of the street. No.
There you go.
Funny fact though, living in Florida, I met more people from Ohio in the 15 years I lived in Florida than I did than before or after when I came back.
Yeah, most of the hot states are like that. Arizona's the same way. Nobody's from Arizona, Phoenix, let's say, everybody's kind of from somewhere else, so they moved to Phoenix. Vegas, same thing. It's California. Nobody's from California, so that everybody moved from wherever to get out of whatever. And I get it. I remember there was a time I had to call it a while where, I wanted to move and branch out and escape and do this, do that. And then I don't know. I just got to where I started embracing where I'm at, and I started building my house up like an RPG, like, castle. And it went from being a crap house. Then I would do shows, come back, get it built up a little bit more. And now I love it. And I'm like, okay, this is the way to go, because you can basically buy a house for dirt cheap and then piecemeal make it into your dream house.
Right.
As opposed to spending $30,000 when you're in your 20s on a mortgage you're never going to be able to get out from under. I think it's a bad move. But once again, that's old man Terry talking, like, well, young man, don't get yourself in debt when you're too young. Because you definitely, the seasons change and you're not going to be able to pay it off.
I'm not calling you old man Terry till you look at some kid and go, get off my lawn. Then you're old man Terry.
I would be able to tell you to get off my lawn if I didn't put a big privacy fence around it. So I cut myself off from that option. So
some little kid digs under the fence. Whoop. Hi.
Oh, man. It's funny that you say that, because we do have like 4 or 5 gophers in our yard at any given time. They pop out, and I tried to shoot one of them with an airsoft, was it airsoft or whatever the pellet gun is that you got to pump back
BB gun.
Yeah, and I got him, but it didn't take him out. So.
Oh, poor little gopher.
No, man. I was trying to be nice to them. Then they dug into the house. Okay, so I just gave y'all like, move to the Midwest and all that. It's great. That's the thing. You're definitely going to be Fern Gully when you come back over here. It's a lot of creatures that live amongst you that you got to contend with. So if you're an animal lover, come on back to the Midwest. You'll have gophers, raccoons, all the cats you could ever want.
Cats. There's an abundance. That's why.
Cats are everywhere. Wild boar. I mean, it's all kind of stuff for you out here. Deer. Come on back. You can live in a Disney movie out here. Come on.
My my chihuahua saw a deer, tried to chase it, was on it. I mean, she was on this deer. She's fast. It jumped the fence. And my chihuahua sat down, turned around, looked at me, and went, "It cheated! Mom, it cheated!" It's like, what do you want from me?
What's your chihuahua's name?
Fizzgig.
One more time.
Fizzgig.
I feel like I've
F-I-Z-Z.
heard that before. What's that from?
It's from the Dark Crystal.
Okay, all right.
It's a little squirrel with teeth.
I was like, that sounds very familiar, pop culture wise.
Oh yeah.
All
My
right.
other dog is Shigo from Kim Possible.
Okay.
Then we have my two cats, Lieutenant Savick. You better know what that's from. Star Trek.
Star Trek. Okay, all right. I did know. I'm not the biggest Trekkie, but I'm not like, I don't know. It's not like I don't know nothing either.
It's the Wrath of Khan, Christy Alley's character.
Okay, there you go.
And then if you don't get this one, that's it. This interview's done and over with, and you're never coming back on the show.
Nope, no pressure.
Darth Vader.
Oh, wow. That's the guy from that laser sword. No, I'm joking. Speaking of Darth Vader, that segues into more movie talk. So out of the 3 new movies, I had fun with the first one. I think fans overreacted, and I also think fans venerate the older movies into these movies that they're good movies, but they're not like perfect. Like Star Wars is kind of boring. Like I went and watched Rogue One, which is my favorite Star Wars new stuff. And then I was like, oh, it goes right into New Hope. And I was just like it's like an hour and nothing's happened. Like Luke is still kicking around in the dirt, and then they have the same nonsensical get on the Death Star. Like they have the worst security. Take a princess, like the stuff that people complain about in the Force Awakens. They got the same problems because they copied it, obviously. But it's like, they got the plot points are just as contrived in the first one. You just didn't care because you were an 8-year-old kid.
Yeah, now, it doesn't help though that he made that special edition which drags things out.
I'm not gonna cheat. I'm not gonna go obvious bad Lucas stuff. But then Empire is still great. Empire is like the best one out of the bunch.
It is the greatest movie ever.
It is. Empire, to me, it goes Empire, Rogue One, and I don't know what my third is. Like I haven't really enjoyed Star Wars, like in that way. I do like Return of the Jedi for the Luke Vader stuff. Like that stuff's great. If we could have a fan edit.
There's got to be that kid part of you, because Return of the Jedi was great when we were kids.
Yeah, I had no problem with it as a kid.
As a kid, it was fantastic. So that's actually why I actually kind of put it up above A New Hope, because I have more nostalgia feel to it.
I can see that. I mean, it definitely was a darker. Like if you take out the Ewok stuff, kind of was like pouring tapioca into something that was a lot more savory than you would think it would be. But I also use Return of the Jedi to rebut these butthurt fanboys that says Luke would never kill Kylo Ren in his sleep, and Luke wasn't this grumpy, bitter old man. Like, did you not see Luke lose his shit when they told him they were going to turn his sister into a Sith Lord? Like, he literally lost it. Like,
Luke should have just went.
He cut his guy's hand off. Like,
I'm sorry, but Luke should have gone, really? My sister? You mean Princess Leia from Alderaan? Because I really want to see I just really want to hear Darth Vader go, what? Shit.
Well, that we all know the plot hole of that. Like, he didn't really know what the heck he was doing, even though he claims he was gonna. I knew it was a trilogy. It was like, well, you got the guy making out with his sister, but that actually leads back to what Star Wars is kind of a derivative of. Everybody knows Hidden Fortress, but it's got a lot of stuff from Dune as well.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a kind of brother sister princess thing in that as well, where they were kind of, so it was the remnants of him kind of taking that and dumping it in the Star. They had the spice, they had force, all the stuff comes from Dune, Dune, not Doom.
No, I know Dune. I've read the books. I've watched the Bright Blue Eyed movie.
Oh, that movie is so hard. I love the movie. See, I'm a David Lynch fanboy. And so I'm not gonna crap on the movie, but that movie's so off base compared to the books. Like they pretty much made it into Star Wars. Like they made it into this action adventure when really it's a tragedy.
Oh yeah.
It's a what would happen if pretty much if Luke Skywalker became the beginning of galactic war that lasted 1,000 years, which once again is what Star Wars is, but it's so shallow beneath the surface. I'm sorry, fanboys, that you really don't get that. Like, how come they're always fighting? Because in Star Wars, we got to have fights. But it's like, what if your chosen one character was the beginning of the end? That's Dune. That's what makes it more interesting to me. And not like the end temporarily, like you're not going to see change for like a millennia. like this guy's going to completely become the new driving force in the universe. And then they're going to have to defeat pretty much all the systems he set up. I thought it was a better deconstruction of power.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, obviously, the writer was going off of Christianity and what happened with Jesus Christ, where you have like it seems great, and then the Catholic Church becomes pretty much the ruling force on the planet. I know it's hard for people to kind of believe that now. Like, what, Catholic Church? No way. Like, yeah.
Go read your history in the Catholic Church to see how many times they changed rules
to fit in. Yeah, they're very. God, I'm going to piss somebody off. They're very.
I don't care.
They're very much a social parasite, where they're able to basically thrive off of whatever the social zeitgeist is. Even though now they don't have as much power as they used to have, not even by a little bit. And they kind of come off like the underdogs. Like, why are you picking on Christianity? You know, like I'm not. Like, dude, they had their time to rule, and it actually fueled a lot of. And they did. They were like, hey, how about we go spread this Catholicism everywhere, like by force? And so I hear people talk about Western civilization all the time, and they kind of treat it like we just opted into it. Like, oh yeah, you know, I weighed between my indigenous people and Western civilization, and I went with Western civilization. It was like, no, they would kidnap your leaders, and they would force him to convert, also by proxy converting you, and they would kill him. And it was like a repeat, watch, rinse, and repeat on every culture they would encounter. It's crazy. Right.
Basically, either you follow our religion or we murder you. The end.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it goes, you know. And look, I'm not one to go back and litigate how empires work, because every empire uses warrior wing and a religious wing as a 1-2 punch. Like, we're either going to get the stick or you're going to get the carrot. Like, one of the two we're going to use to subjugate the other people groups. And so every people group it's like a football team. It's like, we're the California Eagles, and, you know, we're the, you know, Chicago Desert Snakes, and our thing is the best thing, and we're going to, you know, push it on you. And so every society kind of had a religious mascot. And so once Christianity started taking over, we're in a TED Talk now, the inevitable happened, it starts fracturing where they start fighting amongst themselves.
Right.
And this is where we end up with today, where it's like, well, you know, I'm evangelical, I'm Protestant, I'm Episcopalian, and because human beings go human beings. Right. You know, so I'm only reason I'm saying this because I want everybody to think I'm just picking on Catholicism, like it in and of itself is evil. It's just because people were in it, and people gone people, you know, which we're seeing today on the news every day.
Right.
It's like, golly. My daughter told me about a comment. I wish I could take credit for this. She was like, how genius. Who knew that Black Mirror season 6 would be like reality? And I was like, I had to think about it for a minute. Like, yeah, this is Black Mirror. You got the killer bees. You got like the bizarro upside down world. It's like the COVID-19. I'm like, this is the new season of Black Mirror, where we get social commentary through weird flips in reality norms.
Mm-hmm.
So what can you do?
I will say this: if one more person goes, I can't wait for life to get back to normal. There is no normal. Normal
Yeah,
doesn't exist anymore.
yeah,
There is no
yeah.
going back to normal on any front of anything that's happened. We have to learn. We have to get wiser, and we have to move forward to make a better place
And
for the kids.
I think that's happened. I think it's the cynical part would be to go nothing's changed, but I think the solidarity, which we've been waiting on for a long time. We didn't know. I didn't know it was going to be this. Don't get me wrong, because many people are getting killed by the cops and nobody lifted a finger. It was like, but I think the perfect storm was the COVID-19 gave everybody time to really dig and unpack this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And once you really look into it, it's really hard to not come to a common sense consensus that the cops are killing Black people on an abnormal rate, whether it be accident or not. Like, why is it always like, come it isn't like a group of Japanese people that are accidentally getting killed by the cops? Like, it's always Black people, whether you're in your home, whether you're in a car driving somewhere. Like, I think the narrative of like, well, they were caught doing a crime. It's like, no, you don't even have that cover. It's like they're pretty much on a podcast right now, and then the cops come in here. It's like, if you can't even be safe doing nothing, then we have a problem. And I think most of America sees that, and I think that's great. I'm grateful for the
really
new allies.
Because let's face it, put you and me in the same situation. Both of us are driving down the street. We both run the same stop sign. I get pulled over. I may get a ticket. I may not. You get pulled over. What is the likelihood of them pulling you out of the car, checking your car for drugs, patting you down, putting you back in the cruiser?
That's happened to me. And,
it's not right.
Yeah, I've been on the side of the highway for 2 hours sitting in the cold because some cops said the dog smelled drugs. Yeah, and I don't look. I'm the squarest guy I know. Like, I don't mess with drugs just because ain't no money in it. But it's just, so they pulled me. I knew that I didn't have any. I'm like, man, I don't know if they're trolling me or what the heck's going on. But this ain't right. But when you're a person of color, you kind of treat life like once again an RPG, and you just take racism as part of the American experience. And so just like when you're playing a role playing game, you're like, well, if I go to Orc Town and I'm a high elf, they're probably gonna attack on sight. So I'm gonna keep that in mind when I go in there. In video games we get it. It's like I feel like we understand race and culture and all that stuff, but in real life we act like, oh, there's nothing. It's like, and I feel like that zeitgeist has finally shifted to where the planet, like, I mean, I couldn't be more happy that the planet is involved with this movement, because America wrote a check it is yet to cash, which is hey, freedom and equality for everybody. We didn't make that up. That isn't something Black people wrote into the Constitution, and now we're just trying to get people to do what they didn't promise to. But as the one lady said, the social contract has not been honored.
Right.
And we're at a point now where even whites are realizing that the police are a great institution for a very specific thing, but when you use them for too many things, they're a hammer, and to the person with the hammer, every problem looks like a nail. And so when they're pretty much treating everything with aggressive force, you're like, man, what's going on? Why they push that old man on the street? Like, that was crazy.
God. And did you notice all he was trying to do is give them back one of their helmets?
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, if you look at a different angle, he's got one of their helmets, and you can hear him go, excuse me, and they're like, get out of the way, and he's like, excuse me, they just shove him, and then you hear the thud of his skull,
I know,
and then he's bleeding out of his ear.
The thud was sickening, man. I was like, holy. I was just as mad as that as the George Floyd stuff. See, it doesn't take like, oh, you're only mad because one of you. Like, I'm mad because this is happening. And so I told my wife, I think the Orwellian doublespeak irony of all this is we've watched a consistent litany of cops being thugs and criminals. And you know what the argument is? Well, who's going to protect us from thugs and murderers? I was like, you're watching thugs and murderers. I'm not saying every single cop is a thug or a murderer, but you're definitely watching people be thugs. pushing people down and murder people.
And then the other people walking past him, just walking past him.
Walking past. And so it boils down to this. If you say that accidental death, I'll stair step you into my trap. Accidental deaths by the cops is worth the cost of doing business for us to have police protection. That's one. And then if those deaths happen to be black, still worth the cost of doing business for us to have police protection. This is a built-in fixed cost for us, all of us, to be protected. Is that they're gonna accidentally kill some people. It's
not right.
It's like dumb as hell to fix your brain to go, well, a few people dying is worth most of us being protected by the cops.
This isn't war.
That's what I'm getting at. It's like, but the cops are doing the killing. And cops don't protect you from getting killed. All right, they come after you're already dead. Like, there's no cop jumping in front and taking a bullet for you. The cops come. What you need is, if you live from the trauma that happened, is somebody to basically rehabilitate you and to get you back into societal norms where you're not afraid to go out into public because you have PTSD. I'm a victim of a gun crime, so I know exactly the process of what happens when that happens. Like, it really messes your brain up. Like, you are shell shocked and all kind of stuff for a long time. So, but there's nothing the police officer is going to do.
No.
Take a report and do all that, and maybe they won't catch the guys. So I'm not denigrating the cops as an institution, but they're too big of an institution for their own good, and they're too militarized for their own good. Like I said, with that much military power, now it's pretty obvious to see that the cops' main purpose is to protect corporate interests. Like, if you don't agree with that, I get you. You haven't been paying attention, but they're not protecting people. They're hurting people to protect.
They're hurting people.
Stuff is more important. Like, I don't give a damn about a broken window over that fucking old white man's head. Like, I'd rather see his head be intact than Macy's had a window broke out. I'm sorry. I don't know what that makes me, a liberal snowflake or whatever you want to call me.
Macy's has enough money to protect that window. Who's going to protect that 75-year-old man who was obviously on his own?
We could call the cops. Oh, wait. Oh,
no,
we can't call the cops because the cops are the ones that bust his head. That's what I'm saying. And it goes back to comic books, I guess. Who watches The Watchmen becomes even more poignant of a saying. Like, who's watching these guys? Because obviously there's nobody to protect us from the cops. And this leads us back to the irony of the gun-toting protesters that came out about, a couple weeks earlier. And their whole thing for carrying guns is, and I got guns, I'm not anti-gun, but their whole thing is saying that, well, guns are just in case we have a tyrannical government that we got to take over. But then when they see it happening right in front of them, nowhere to be found.
I'm looking for them because we have that going on in our government right now. So I'm looking for them.
I don't see them. They're like no problem here. Just seeing now
that I can get my hair cut, there's no problem here.
What's funny to me is that it's dark comedy. I showed my wife this bit from this British show that has these two British guys dressed up as Nazis, and one's kind of a nerd. He's like, "Hey, I noticed we have skulls on our hats. Are we the baddies?" And he just kind of goes through this big nerdy litany of like, wait a minute, like there's nothing good about a skull. Like, how can we say we're the good guys and we have skulls and symbols of death all over our uniforms? And yeah, it's funny. It's I'll send you a link after this is done. But then to hear the cops, I told her this before the cops started doubling down on the Punisher skull as like their symbol of solidarity. Like, there's no way to spin a skull. Like, you can't make a skull seem like a good thing. I'm here to serve and protect by also being this face of death. So you can't even look more like a Nazi regime or a fascist regime, at least, than they are. It's funny. Like,
not to mention, do they not realize taking the Punisher skull and putting it on their uniforms, you're basically saying you're above the law. That's what Frank Castle is. He took the law into his own hands. He's above the law.
It proves the point. It's almost like, Your Honor, my case is closed. They venerate a person that basically uses bullets to solve societal problems. Now, look, I like the Punisher in more moderate interpretations was not looked at as a good guy. He was looked at as what he was, a vigilante. But I think because of that, and then the Chris Kyle use of the skull, I think that's really what pushed it in the public zeitgeist. I don't know if the cops actually know about the Punisher aspect of it, other than that he was a cop and he had this cool symbol, and they didn't really look at it because he killed a lot of cops in the book. So it's like, guys, you know, this guy was a cop killer, but oh well, I'll let you guys have your symbol. But it's just, once again, even if I didn't know that as a fan of comic books, and I'm like, man, all the cops would have put on these fascistic skulls as a sign of solidarity. That's odd to me. And then obviously you got Fox News just pushing out the craziest conspiracy theories they can push out in the face of the obvious.
I mean, the thing is if you're trying, you know, you're like, oh, but we're the good guys and things like that. Cool. You don't put a skull on. You put a rainbow or a flag with multicolors or maybe the planet or something.
Right.
Not a skull.
Right. I mean, or just don't put
anything
a skull on. How about just not a skull? You know, we could just do that. And look, I'm not going to nitpick every, like I said, because I was in the military.
Let's just draw him a little tulip.
I was in the military. I know what uniform people go through, but I also know there's a lot of encoded gang-like mentalities that go into the military and the police force. And so it's hard for people in these systems it's hard to really step out because they got ways to punish you physically and economically.
Right.
And you know, and the next time, you know, something happens to your old lady, and you know, you're a cop and you know, you're gonna call the homie, nobody's gonna come help you out. They got all kind of ways to basically reinforce their power base within and without, because they always threaten the public like, well, you're gonna miss us where we're going. But when you're at a point to where the cops are doing most of the aggressive show of force, then I think we get to where we're at now. We're like, hey, maybe we should wind down most of the cops and ramp up other social programs to keep people from being in these situations where they're getting killed by the cops or at least beat up by the cops. You know, because
and of course every state needs to look at, you know, the response from their communities with their officers.
Yeah.
Because every community, you know, I'm going to say, I like where I live. I pay a little bit more than I would living in the city. I live in the outskirts, but I have cops who will come and open up your car door for you if you lock your keys in the car. Absolutely free. And then I come up to Cincinnati and I have cops who would smack you upside the head with a baton because you broke your nose, because you sneezed on them. It's
not to say that every cop is monolithically,
no,
you know, just not to say that every white person is this evil Scrooge McDuck racist person. But at the same time, you know, when you live in a system that either benefits or you know, disenfranchises a certain group, it has to be addressed by the majority of the group. Just like the Bloods and Crips, you know, Black culture, we took it upon ourselves to do activism and ramp down the gang violence and all that stuff. And white people kind of looked at us like, hey, you guys take care of your crime problem. But nobody looks at white crime like it's this special sort of crime. Nobody goes, white on white crime is outrageous. And it's just percentile wise, it's about equal. Like there's no like there's more black crime than white crime. Like there's
not.
It's just crime, guys. How about that? Like it's crime one. Two, there's actually very little interracial crime. Like black dudes aren't murdering white girls in mass to have these sexy crime numbers. That's not how crime works. You know, and so
guys, we need to ramp it up. We're getting a little low in the polls. Can you go get a couple of no?
No, it's, you know, and so it becomes one of those things where until we can change the contextual of the language, like, hey, crime sucks. Like people shouldn't be killing people, well, no matter what they look like or what color they're from. Then we can, as a society, like we are now, get together and tackle these big issues, because a lot of these problems are preventable. You know, that's what I told my wife. Whenever somebody gives you a list of what people die from, they're also giving you a list of things that are preventable that they also don't care about. So they go, people die in car accidents every day. People die from the flu. People die. I'm like, those are all things we can actually cut down next to nothing, right? Like we can actually solve these. These are solvable deaths, but we're not going to do it because once again, like my trap I laid earlier, you consider this the cost of doing business because pure capitalism has made us into sociopaths. I'm just going to leave it at that. Like we literally well, what's the cost of saving those lives? Like, why does it have to cost anything? When why are you thinking about that? But when huge epic business fails, they give them like $1 trillion. Nobody brings up, well, what about the cost of that? Like, how come that's always worth it, but regular human life isn't worth it? That's my question that nobody seems to be able to answer.
I don't know. To me, it's not.
It's nuts. But
there's something severely wrong.
For everybody. For everybody. Not just black ways. It's a people problem.
And a lot of it is rooted within our society and our governments, our communities. How many times have you listened to a conversation and it's, oh, that black couple, or oh, that white couple, or why can't it just be a couple?
Like, to me, verbal semantics is something that I don't get bent out of shape about. It's, to me, is when you start delineating things that shouldn't be delineated. Like, man, crime in those black neighborhoods, like, it's just crime. It's your neighborhood too.
It's just a crime in a neighborhood.
Why are you acting like it's a delineated neighborhood? And this is actually, here's the downside to that type of thought. Once again, it's not you being nice to me. It's because when you have this mindset, you're totally blind to the fact that opiates creeped into your neighborhood and destroyed it because you were so busy fixating on black crime and blackness and black drug problems. Like, well, guess what? White middle America has a drug problem. And you saw the response to that drug problem. It's like nationwide push to get it fixed, and let's basically open up clinics to get people off of opiates, and it's a, what do they call it, a disease now. Whereas when our culture got hit with drugs in the 80s, it was a moral lapse, and so they over police, and this was under Slick Willie Clinton. So he locked a lot of us up. I never gave him a pass for that, and so it's why I'm not a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat per se. So anybody thinking I'm just I vote for who makes common sense. And to me, if you're locking my people up and you're not putting money in my pocket, you don't make no sense. So I want those two things. I'm good to go. Like, I don't care what badge you wear, what color or party you affiliate with. That being said, the right has gone over the precipice to where it's weird now. Like, I can't even but pretend to be a moderate at this point. Like, well, conservatives are saying some good things and liberals are saying, like, it's like, ooh, man, y'all saying stuff right out of the history books of fascism. Like, how do y'all accidentally keep looking like fascists? Like, so.
I don't think it's accidental.
I'm still giving them the benefit of the doubt. They're not doing it on purpose. They're accidentally fascists, which the irony is that white culture taught brown culture, in America anyway, what fascism was and why it was bad. It was a steady stream of propaganda movies that we all love, Saving Private Ryan, all this stuff. And even before that, even from the 30s on up, like, here's why fascism is bad. For us to end up here where we're like, well, the Nazi opinions are just as valid as the liberal opinion. Like, how did we end up here where it's like neck and neck? They have some good ideas about an ethno state. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, and as a service member, I get extra offended. Like, we fought against the Nazis, and now you're like, oh, they're not so bad now. They can, and even Germans are like, what are y'all talking about? Like, why so Nazi all of a sudden, rest of the world?
Hold on, give me just a second.
Yeah. Victim complex. There you go.
Yeah, that will not be said, and bam.
Hey, it's all good. He's right. There's nothing to see here. I'm just a victim, and You know, I'm making up imaginary woes, and we all have it rough. I heard all the stories, but once again, I feel like when we're playing video games and you get to choose what race and class you want, and it clearly tells you like here's going to be the upside. We're like, yeah, okay, well, okay, high elves get to walk around in these sections of the map without any problem. But in real life, we're like, no, that doesn't happen in real life. Like, what do you think that came from? Like, there's always been societal victimization of the other, you know. So it's just it's one of those things. It's easy to get on the internet and throw out a little rap battle lyric, but real life is proving them wrong day by day, you know. So I don't really have to argue with person X about something that's common sense right now.
Yeah, I get it. It's just I'm gonna be honest. There is so somebody just says something about the BLM movement, which
Yeah,
is wrong.
yeah, I see it.
And
I see it.
here on my channel, on my YouTube, on my social medias, on my Twitch, on anything that I do, hate is not welcome here. You're not welcome. I don't want you here. You're not welcome here. I will block you. I don't play the oh, just feed the trolls and let their comments stand. No, I'm going to call you out for being a hater and you will be removed.
I'm sure they don't feel like they're being a hater. I'm going to play like defense attorney for this guy or girl.
But I'm just going to say this though. I don't allow hate in my.
I'm the same way. I try to just because I did a black version of a anime character, and for whatever reason, like the trolls came out for that particular one. I hadn't seen them before, but they were like, ah, and I'm like, wow, like why has this got you so hot and bothered? And I just told my daughter this morning, like if me making a certain segment of society feel good about being in their own skin versus you being upset about it, I'm gonna go with the people feeling good in their own skin. If you're pissed, cool. I'll be your bad guy. I'll be the villain in your story because I can't please everybody, and I'm not even gonna attempt to in cases like this where people kind of want you to just give up on black. All lives matter. It's like you saying your Chihuahua. Let's say the end of your Chihuahua story. You chases the deer, and your Chihuahua gets killed by that deer, and you're like, man, we got to do a protection for Chihuahuas chasing deers. And I go, all dogs matter though.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like what the hell does that even mean in the context of what I'm talking about? I'm talking about a very specific problem, and you're like expanding it out. Of course, all dogs' lives matter, but I'm talking about the life of my Chihuahua dog. Like Chihuahuas are getting killed by deers left and right exclusively, right? Not like it's just one Chihuahua out of 1,000. It's all Chihuahuas. Like back to back week, like every 2 weeks, a Chihuahua gets killed by a deer, and somebody's there to tape it. And I go, all dogs though. What about golden retriever lives matter? Like, why are you so fixated on expanding the scope of the situation when clearly we have a specific problem with this specific demographic of dogs? You get my analogy now? Like, so when you expand out, it's like you're not being helpful. You're not saying anything useful. You're just trying to shut me up and go, oh, yeah, you know what? All dogs' lives do matter. Man, how dare I focus on this one specific problem within dogs? It's like saying like breast cancer awareness, like whole body matters. Like, but breast cancer is a specific problem. Whole body though, the whole body matters though. Like male bodies matter. Like
I think the best thing I've seen was when Boston got hit, you know, and they're like, Boston's strong. Well, every state's strong. No one said that. When, you know, so why is it when someone says Black Lives Matter, people have to go, well, all lives matter. Well, no shit, Sherlock. All lives matter. But guess what? My life ain't going to matter any much better if I can't help fix the problem that my black friends' lives don't matter.
Well, if you say all lives matter, then why isn't your ass out there? Like, you should be out there. You should be just as upset as you are about abortion, about people's lives getting aborted prematurely by the cops. Like, but you're not. And that's what lets people like us know that it's a disingenuous follow-up Or you can say Black Lives Matter is a joke. It's funded by George Soros. Or I've heard so many conspiracy theories, and it's like that doesn't erase the fact that the few bad apples in the bunch need to be dealt with, right?
Mhm.
And people forget that the few bad apples saying is a few bad apples ruins the whole bunch. And that's what's happening. Like if you let bad apples, once again, Midwesterners know this, bad apples in a group of good apples, the rot will spread and it will ferment all your apples. You know,
Exactly.
so you can't just keep your bad apples in there and expect nothing to change. Like it's gonna ruin the whole institution, like it has. Like if let me give you another example, because there's been, you know, a handful of school shootings here in the past couple years, right? I don't know, I can't remember the number exactly, which is a shame because there shouldn't be that many, should be zero. But if all those school shooters were of an ethnic background and they were all of the same ethnic background, we couldn't get up there and go, especially if they were black. Let's say it was black gangbangers shooting up churches, movie theaters, and schools. We can go, man, it's a few bad apples in our culture. It's a few bad apples. No, we would once again have to get up there and answer for our culture and be held accountable to fix it. And people ever want to know what's white privilege? I hear this all the time. What is white privilege? It's that. It's not having to be an ambassador for your entire culture. It's not having to basically answer for everything your culture does. Because had they been Muslim, the Muslim culture would have had to get up and basically say, hey, we're looking into this. Had they been Mexican, the Mexican culture would have had to get up. But these kids have been, for the most part, not every single one, but for the most part, monolithically young, white, well-off boys. And the white culture is like, well, we're not going to do anything about that. That's not our, that's just an individual problem. That's not a widespread problem, even though it keeps happening the same way. Then the cop shootings happen, and it's the same thing, but in reverse, right? Where you got a group that seems to be focusing on accidentally killing one people group. Not a problem. That's just a deranged individual cop, and it's not it's nothing bigger than that. And you know, I don't see why you guys are so upset about it, and you're making up your made up victimization thing. And you know, that's the stuff that drives me nuts about the lack of, you know, because I can see white victimization clearly, right? I can see that a certain segment of white culture has been victimized by the corporate culture.
Oh, I can tell you exactly who they are, because guess what? I come from them.
Well, like I said, we're in the same. Like
the poor white person. Yeah,
guess who caused that? Not black people.
No,
not Mexicans.
No,
we didn't strip the money out of white neighborhoods like people fracking for natural gas and then leave once it was all gone. That was corporate culture that did that to you.
It is the corporate upper white class,
which is why we have to team together. Black, white, and Mexican, we have to team together to get what is owed to us as American citizens. And we got a situation where we have a president that is not uniting the United States of America. It's in the title, folks. The United States, not the states. I think people get used to saying America so much. The United States of America.
Right.
United, we can kick any problem's ass. We can build rocket ships. We can build huge institutions that benefit everybody. Divided like we are now.
Divided we fall. It's an old cliche, but united we would stand strong, and divided we fall.
It's a cliche for a reason.
And I think it was early 80s. There was that. You did see the, you know, this thing of the poor white people and all of the other races starting to form, and they're like, oh no, we got to stop this. And they divided us, and then we fell, and we're staying, and regardless of anything, what's happening now is just it's been this pot that's been simmering, and it didn't boil over. The lid just went straight through the roof.
It really did. I use the same analogy. You're absolutely right. It literally like exploded everywhere. And I don't think, you know, the problem with our current leadership is that he I forgot what the paradox is called, but it happens when you have I'm being nice. You have success, and then you do the same thing again, you get success, and then that last time you do it, you get utter failure. He had so much success throwing Molotov cocktails into liberal areas that, and it would work every time. People go, look what Trump said, and then we'd all look over there, and then they'd sign a new bill that gives a new tax cut to a new corporate entity. But this time he threw the Molotov cocktail verbally, and the wind shifted, and literally the fire started burning backwards. And so I've never seen such a backlash off of a tweet in my life. Now it's the backlash we've been waiting for, but never happened. But right. now everything he says just doubles down on it. Just fuels the fire. The protests and the riots, it really is more protests than riots, would have been over by. They would have been over by now had he been a president of the United States of America and calmed everything down. But he doesn't. I don't think he has the RPG skill set to do it. He keeps failing the skill check.
Here's your friend that you bring into your RPG world, and then the noob, and you dig them a hole and you go, here, stay here. We'll be back. Maybe.
He doesn't have the skill set to basically do. This is exactly why COVID-19 and social unrest is why you need rock solid leadership. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't care if it's right or from the left. If you don't have rock solid leadership, you have situations like this going on. And it's a sure, like, it's not even good for business at this point. Like, they're not happy. The people aren't happy.
No.
The system's broken. And so it's like, this is a clear indicator that you're not a great leader, because you can blame George Soros or liberal elites. This is all a setup. I've heard it all. This is bad leadership 101.
Right.
That's what happens.
It comes to this point. You are the leader of the United States of America, the free world, the people who who should be united even with all of their differences. And what have you done?
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, look. I actually read The Art of the Deal when I was in my 20s. It was a very instrumental book on me getting some of the business psychology I got now. Strangely enough, it's a strange paradox. And even though I didn't vote for Trump, there was a part of me that hoped he would tamp down the racist rhetoric and like basically moderate like every other president has done. Because once again, you kind of it's like you have 4 kids, but you literally pick a favorite kid and tell the other kids you don't love them as much as you love this kid. Like, what do you think's going to happen to the other kids when they see you specifically catering to one segment of America exclusively? Like, you say what they say, you believe what they believe. It's like, bro, you're not even pretending to even see what's happening over here. You know, so you know,
did you hear about the teacher who did the eye test?
No.
She split her class. Blue eyes on one side, brown eyes on the other side. And she would spend time praising the blue eyes for everything that they did. The brown eyes didn't get any praise. They could have, if they did something and it was just as good, she'd be like, you could have done better. But praising. And it didn't take these kids long to go, hey, wait a minute, why are they better because of the color of their eyes? Like, the kids got it.
Yeah,
and I mean,
kids get it. Kids get it. You know, and I will say that the type of systemic racism we have in our country is something that's taught to you over time. But we all remember that time when we were just oblivious to that shit. It wasn't even a boy girl like, hey, you like video games? Let's run around and
I miss those days.
I'm not saying that we got to go back to pie in the sky. Nobody. But at the same time, once again, if Buggard Cello is still listening, I'm saying this is why it's bad for everybody. I'm not asking you to give me anything in particular. I'm saying open yourself up to the fact that you are being excluded from things that could benefit your life. Diversity could make your life more amazing. You just don't know it. because you've never been sold it that way. You've been sold it. It's another thing you have to give up. It's another people group you have to cater to make them feel nice. No, I don't need you. I don't need you to. You can still be the same crotchety SOB you probably are in your life. But what you need to realize is that you're missing out on opportunities because we're not opening America up psychologically. Well, most of us are actually. Let me take it back. 60% of us know how cool it is to basically have a diversity of thought and money. You like money, don't you? Amanda likes money. Amanda goes to Comic-Cons all across the country. And
Amanda likes money. Buy something.
Exactly, buy something. She's not gonna be like, well, I don't want
no,
that. I don't want that black dollar. That comes down to that.
No, I will take all the money. Give. I don't care.
Me too. I'll even take racist dollars. That's how much I want dollars. But look, listen, seriously, you gotta basically realize that it's gonna hurt our country's name brand. Our name brand of United States of America, if we can't come to a consensus of common sense that we used to have, probably because we all consume the same media up to a certain point, and then it got fractured by the internet. But you know, you go back and watch. I'm watching an old Sherlock Holmes movie, and he gives this eloquent speech on equality in the 30s. I'm like, whoa. Now, obviously, look, America was going through its thing, but the fact that it was so well articulated without any irony, because there was no political reason to go all liberal SJW, like this is the 30s. This is, you know, but it was like a common sense that we should treat our fellow man with respect. And now that's been, you know, obliterated, and we're at a place where the social contract is failing more people than it's helping, even whites. Even whites.
Look, guys, if we don't get this together, we're going to end up like the Age of Apocalypse and X-Men.
Yeah, I don't want that. I don't want
that. No, thank you.
I like stability and all that good stuff. And now let's get optimistic. I think I'm excited for the first time in a long time about the future. I think that this is going to cause a paradigm shift that's going to get other things that we need done. Like we need a social safety net badly, you know. And so, because if we would have had something like that, then C-19 would have been a breeze to go through, because we're not worried about basic needs like we do in our first world country. We worry about how we're going to eat and pay our bills. That's still something we worry about, and we're one of the most technologically advanced countries in the planet, but yet the people, we live like third world countries in some places, not everywhere, but in some places, you know, and that shouldn't be. And that's really what gets me on the kick that I'm on, because I live in what we consider the bad neighborhood of our city. And I'm like, man, the problems are all economic. It's not they're just bad people doing bad things. It's just they're poor. They're dirt poor. You know, like dirt poor, whether they got there through their own means or their mama made decisions that ruin their potential future prospects. It shouldn't matter.
Right.
You know, and it shouldn't be a matter of deserve, as a matter of like, let's just take care of people whether they deserve it or not. That's what they call grace, Christian people. Like you taught me this, but now you're gonna act like, no, you know, Jesus wouldn't be a capitalist. Like he definitely certainly turned over the money changers in the church when he saw them selling stuff in the church. So I don't know why y'all think that Christianity and capitalism go hand in hand, because they don't.
No.
Do I like capitalism? I like parts of it. Parts are great. But I think it's a sandwich in which capitalism is the meat, but socialism is the top bun, which corporations get. Whenever they get in trouble, they get a bunch of money. But then those of us on the bottom, they're like, you get no bun. You get nothing because you're just a leech loser that can't play the game. And it's like, why come major corporations that make trillions of dollars, when 2 weeks of no sales, they're already in trouble, but Amanda and Terry Huddleston, let's say, who have the dumbest jobs ever, are still finding ways to sustain themselves? Couldn't it be better off if you just bet on us next time? Like, give us a bunch of money. I know it sounds however it sounds, but we would take that money and do amazing things with that money.
Yep.
Like seriously, you would start like so many things that would put so many people in jobs.
Oh yeah, you seriously, you will give me the money. I will take the money. I will go buy a warehouse. I will buy the PS4s, the PCs, the Xboxes. I will hire a total of 20 people at $10 an hour if you give me the money.
Yeah, we would. Like, we're already doing it with the little bit of money that we're eking out of the system as it is now. I'm talking about with the C-19 thing. So I want to pour gasoline on entrepreneurs. But at the same time, instead of excluding people, I want the non-entrepreneurial guy to have the opportunity to be an entrepreneur. Or if he chooses not to, he at least he or she has a baseline economic situation where every decision is a life choice. You know, how many friends do you know had to go to the hospital recently? And it's like a life mission. Like, should I go to the hospital or should I just, because they know they could be getting a bill that's going to alter their lives forever.
Right.
We shouldn't have these type of choices in our country.
No.
How
is it that we're the only ones who have that? Why is it everybody else takes care of people medically?
A lot of other countries got bombed. So we're one of the few countries that never had a war on its soil. And it's one of those things you really don't think about until you think about it. But because most other countries, Canada excluded, had to rebuild their societies together, they knew they had to strengthen the social contract. That you got to remember, they started off with rubble, and they're like, look, from now on, we're gonna all pitch in and rebuild this city, and then we're gonna take care of each other afterwards. Is how most other European countries, especially, got to where they are now. But we never really had that instance, which I'm not saying I definitely don't wish that on our country, but we also kind of have this mythology that we're self-made people when we're not.
Right. Because I'll be honest, there's times that I stub my toe and I'm like, hospital bill or flight to across the pond to get that looked at. Yeah. Which one's going to be more expensive?
Or stay home with a crooked toe.
Which one's more expensive? Going to the hospital if I get injured or sick, or flying across the pond to get it looked at? Because I think I might be cheaper.
I'm going to pull it back and start to wrap it up here. So yes. We got all off into a TED talk.
We did, and
I apologize for that. I take full responsibility.
You know what? That was not the intent. We were just supposed to sit back, but life has a way of dictating how podcasts and chats go.
It's the conversation right now. Like it's
the conversation.
But one thing I will say to bring it back to Comic-Con at least is that it's one of the few communities that I love the solidarity of the fandom. This is how I know I'm not living some utopian fantasy, SJW fantasy, as they like to say, because I'm not an SJW, don't get me wrong. But when I see people with the multitude of fandoms that they have all congregate in the same building, everybody's getting along, nobody's, there's so many millions of fandoms that are coming together in one place that represent the United States of America, because it's all different race groups. You got girls in hijabs, you got Hispanic girls, you got Puerto Ricans, black, white, people from overseas, all coming to this shared experience. I know it can happen.
Oh, yeah.
Because we act like it's impossible, like it can never happen. Like, it can happen.
No, it can happen.
We just need to basically that's my kids. We basically need to get to a point.
Is that my boys?
That's one of them. Isaac, he's like 6 feet tall now, so he's gonna surprise you. And then my oldest, he's a little bit taller than that. So it's one of the reasons why I really love the Comic-Con community. And yes, it's got some nefarious characters in it, but everything's gonna have that. But by and large, the community itself is great, and that's why I try to fight any toxic behavior that tries to rear its head, because they prey on stable communities. Just so you know, just to throw that little bit of information out. Like a community can start off stable. It's just about people that are into furries. Next thing you know, it's got a whole alt-right attachment subreddit in it. Like, how the heck did this happen?
Right.
Because they infiltrate groups like this that are kind of clustered off. And so I try to make sure to air some light in a lot of different areas so the roaches will scatter, and keep it, because once again, a stable America is a financially stable America, guys. How about that? I'll use your economic thing to say that's why we need stability and not division. That nobody ever made money with division. It only goes so far.
No, and I think pointing out that comic book conventions are a really great way of looking at it, because again, you have so many different people, from people who like comics, anime, gaming, furries, bronies, Trekkies,
yes,
it's
all that.
It's this great pot, and everybody's fantastic, and listening to how passionate they are about their fandom is great. And
it is great. It really is great. Like it's a drug in and of itself to see so many diverse fandoms and people groups that are they're living for this, man. Like we're kind of jaded. We've done 1,000 of them. We're like, but then you have a fan like, man, that was my first Comic-Con, and oh, I love it. I never dressed up before, and I can't wait for the next one. And you're like, man, it's awesome. I get to basically be a part of their experience, into this Harry Potter world of comic books. Or Comic-Con, I should say.
It's fantastic. But I know we need to wrap this up. I cannot believe we went an hour and 45 minutes.
We did. I think we went like 20 minutes comics, and then the rest was stuff you're not supposed to talk about.
like I said, life dictates the way how shows go and what's going on. I mean, it obviously affects you. It affects me. It affects the people listening, and
it really does. I think that's the thing. People think that there's like it's only affecting, and like I said, this isn't a moral thing, guys. This is a pragmatic. Like if you're playing a civilization building game, this is a problem you'd have to deal with in the game. You in the game, you would know, like, oh man, this civil unrest. I better get that taken care of. Or I could just ignore it and say all sim lives matter, and then I've problem solved. No, you're gonna have to get in there into the minutia of why the problem is what it is. And that being said, I think I'm hopeful, probably more hopeful than I've ever been in my lifetime, that we're at a point where we can finally say we've fixed most of America's legacy problem. Like that, and that's an awesome first to have. We had a lot of firsts over the past 20 years. That'd be an awesome first, that most of America realize that we have a pretty messed up legacy that needs to be dealt with. Right?
It's funny. We'll have to do that some other time, but we actually just had an argument about really? We're making America great again? Because the last time I checked, there was a bunch of white people coming over and slicing and dicing the people who actually owned the land.
I mean, I think we could have moved on from that narrative a long time ago if there would have been some sort of recognition of the problem. Like if they would have like, hey, this is our legacy, but we're going to build a new legacy going forward.
And that's what I think we need to focus on.
That's where we are. That's literally where we are now, because, people kind of go, oh, well, we're talking about that again, blah, blah, blah. But it's not like things have changed. Like Indian life is amazing now. Like, no, Native American life is like tip top. Like it's not. Black lives they're doing better than white people, which is the argument I hear. Trust me. Like black people are doing better than white people. Like, oh, okay. We're definitely doing better. But I think as a culture, as an RPG character in American RPG, we definitely have cultural perks that other cultures don't have, an insight. Does it make us better? Heck no. But we also know that America is a system that you have to basically, you're going to come up against walls. And women know. Y'all, you're like, I mean, when you first find out you were a girl, like that's like a hard wake-up call. You're like, wait a minute, I thought I was a person. I didn't know I was a girl. And you hit that hard wall where it's like, no, you're a girl. You see what I mean? You get the same thing when you're a person of color. You get that, like, I thought I was just a person. It's like, no.
No,
you don't get to be just a person, buddy. So
you're not a person, you're a female.
Yeah, you're this, and they kind of put you back. You're not supposed to be doing this. I can't tell you how many times I get as an artist, and I don't take it as evil or bad. I take it as a curiosity where they go, wait, you're the artist? Like you? And they're like, because they really don't see people that look like me that do art the way I do it. And so it's like, but And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna be their African American unicorn for now, and hopefully it becomes normalized as time goes on, when they see more African American and people of color professionals in situations and professions that stereotypically we were excluded from. You know,
right.
but and that's, I guess, is shifting. And you as a female streamer, you know, that's been like an uphill battle. Like I read about like how much crap female streamers go through, and you know, people say you got it better, you cheat because you got boobs. It's like you just can't win.
Yeah, you know? and look, I'm not saying, yes, there are female streamers out there who will show the cleavage. I'm not gonna do that. I want you to ooh, baby, yeah.
That's doing nothing for your ratings. You just lost like 8 followers. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
But a lot of people do make fun of me because I won't do that. I want people to listen because they like what I have to say. They like the people that I'm bringing on here. Maybe they'll learn something new. I could boost my ratings easy. I'm not going to do it the easy way. I want to do it the hard way. I want people to hear my voice. Not go, oh, look, the half-naked chick's on. Let's go watch that. We're not listening to anything she says. That's not what I want.
Right. And then look, and that's one of those, what I call intra, you know, personal arguments we have. It's like, I'm like the exact wrong person to be commenting on that. Like, I'm not a female and I'm not a streamer. So it's like I got this pet peeve about everybody having an opinion about stuff. It's like, shut up. Like, why do you always gotta have a concrete opinion about everything, and yet you don't even do most of the things you have an opinion about? It's like it goes back to what I was saying about shows that aren't for me. I don't have to have an opinion about it. It's not for me. I don't gotta go, it sucks. Like, it's just a show that's not for me. But if you think it's a AAA show, that's amazing. Like, I'm not gonna fight you over it just because I didn't like it. You know, I didn't understand it, pretty much is what it comes down to. I missed the point of it, and I'm not going to equate my psychology as the rating system for everything in life. You know, I don't understand Black Lives Matter, so it's a waste of time. It's the same thing. Like, hey, if you don't get it, that's cool. Just say that you're ignorant to the tenets of it, or you don't quite understand how it relates to you. I can relate to that. But to say it's a waste of time,
and that it's a joke,
that's a whole lot different. You know what I mean? That's like, oh, okay, now I gotta dig into you because you didn't take it a bridge too far. Instead of claiming like, hey, I have no knowledge of what I'm talking about, now it's like I have the utmost knowledge, and I've come to the assessment that it's a waste of time. So, you know, anyway. So next time I come on here, we're gonna
we got to get to that Star Wars. Next time we're going to go back to that Star Wars that we were talking about, because
the world's going to be different. We'll have a new apocalypse to layer on top of this.
And you get a new background. You give me a new.
Yeah, I'll. We'll definitely do that. So definitely good talking to you. I'm gonna let you go and clean up the mess I made for you.
If you're looking any of the art that you did get to see for a short amount of time, definitely head over right there to www.terryhuddlestonart.com. Check out all of his amazing work. He has some of the coolest pieces. I can't recommend them enough. I really can't. And you can also follow him over on Facebook and Instagram. Terry, we've now spent 2 hours, so I'm going to let you go back to your family.
All right. And let me jump off here. But yeah, cool. All right. And we will meet again.
All right. Thank you so much. And bye, everybody.
See you later.